Hey fantasy fans, this is Dan here with TreeBeard Book Reviews, and today I'm going to be talking about Mort by Terry Pratchett. Alright, so Mort. Mort is the fourth book in the Discworld universe by Terry Pratchett, coming right after Equal Rights. But first, before we get into the book, I just want to say, guys, if you like the content I'm creating here, please like, comment, and subscribe. And so yeah, let's get into Mort. So again, like I said, Mort is the fourth book by Terry Pratchett in the Discworld, but is the first book where it focuses on death as one of the main characters. All right, so in this review, I'm really going to talk about, a brief plot summary, spoiler-free of Mort, things I liked about the book, maybe things I didn't like about the book, and where do you think you should read it, and is it a good place to jump in the Discworld? Okay, so let's talk about Mort. So Mort, it's actually like really funny, like play on words, because like Mort in French or Catalan means death. So the main protagonist of the book, Mortimer, or Mort, how he likes to be called, he's a teenager who now needs to find an apprenticeship. So his father has taken him to apprenticeship fair to get a job, and they wait there all day. There are all sorts of trying to get Mort a job, nothing. So the clock strikes midnight, and Death arrives on his horse Binky, and he offers Mort a position as his apprentice. So the way Death works in the Discworld, he cannot be seen unless by someone with magical abilities, so like a witch or a wizard. So Mort's father just thinks, oh, my son's now going to go be an apprentice to an undertaker. And so Death enlists the help of Mort, and Mort becomes Death's new or first apprentice. And on their first mission, Death and Mort have to go and, take this and guide a soul of a king to the afterlife. And so what happens is Death and Mort, they complete their mission, and then Death begins to start giving Mort missions to go and usher souls to the afterlife. And this is kind of where our story starts, where Mort is then given the task to usher that dead king's daughter to the afterlife. And Mort can't do it. And that's where really our story kicks off. And so that's really what happens. So, Death starts to let Mort take over more as his apprentice and start dealing with more of his duties. And Death finally gets to kind of take a break and explore what it's like to be human. And so, Death gets to go, and he goes and often does things that he's never done before. He gets drunk, he starts gambling, and he tries to find himself a little job too. So that's really, like, without getting into spoilers, so again, Mort is Death's apprentice, and Mort starts taking on the role of Death, and crazy shenanigans happen that have major ramifications all along the Discworld. So I'm really going to talk about now, like, some of the characters that you're going to meet in this book. So there's Mort, like I said, the main protagonist, Mortimer. He's like a teenager, but he's kind of like he's a bit of like any teenage boy, kind of like little unstable, kind of like a little emotional, but excuse me, like he's kind of like, he's not like his family. Like his family were like, farmers and like stuff. Like he had ambitions way beyond that. So you have this Mort who's like this moody kind of teenager who, if you think about starting to take on like the role of being Death's apprentice, where Death is like a personification of Death. So he's quite he's not human, but he's not human, but he's also so human at the same time. So imagine like a teenage boy with the powers of Death. Pretty scary. So again, you have Death. And like Death is just such a cool character. Like Death's in all the Discworld books, but like I said, he's this character who's not human, but he has so much humanity in him and it's made obviously because he, you know, issues people to the afterlife. But the thing with death that I really like, and it's such a small thing, but and it's more just a way Terry Pratchett approaches death, is that death speaks in capitals. So all the, you know, it's death when death is speaking, when everything's in capitals. So I think I think it's done for two reasons. One, to signify that, oh, death is speaking, and just kind of you know, to like show you this presence that death has. Like, he's not yelling, he's just like this powerful essence that, you know, like has this commanding presence. So love death. Like, he's just so, you just want to hug him because he's just like, he's so sweet. And death has this horse called Binky. Oh my god, like, you know, death has so much love for this horse. It's so funny. And like I said, he doesn't, it's not personal, right? Like, death doesn't kill these people. He's there to usher them to their afterlife. And so, yeah, death, such a cool character. So I guess getting on with the characters, there's Albert, who is Death's manservant, who you meet in Death's own, like, Death has his own little like world outside of the Discworld that's outside of time and kind of space that, you know, Death lives in. So you meet Albert there, who is Death's manservant. Then you also meet Death's adopted daughter. What was her name now? Jezebel. So she was like a little interesting character. I'll talk about more Jezebel a little bit later. And some other characters you meet are Igneous Cutwell. He's a wizard, a really strange wizard actually. Like, he doesn't have a beard, and he's not old. So he's like a total like opposite of what a wizard is. He's young, no beard, and he's just like, I mean, I guess he's kind of wizardly because he's obsessed with food, because all the wizards in Discworld are obsessed with food. And then the last character I want to talk about is Princess Kelly. So that is the princess that Mort is ordered by Death to, you know, to usher her to the afterlife, and then Mort doesn't. So, and that's really where it kicks off the whole story of the stuff that's happening in Mort. So let's talk about some of the good. Okay, so first off, I want to say, like, you know, like, this is the first Death book. And really what's good, like, for me, was just, you know, spending time in, like, Death's world, like, Death's, you know, spending time with Death as a POV character. Because, you know, I've read a lot of the Discworld books where, you know, Death kind of pops in and someone dies. Oh, always someone dies on a Discworld book. And Death's there to kind of usher them along. And he's like, so he's such a quirky, funny character where he's just, what's the word? He's trying to do the best with what he's got, and he's trying to be lighthearted about it, but he's also, like, the thing is with Death, he can be really funny, but he can be also extremely serious at the same time. And I just love how, you know, in this book, like, you really get to see the both sides of Death, especially with, like, his adoptive daughter, and just like I said, his love for Binky and love for his daughter and his care for Albert. He's just a really complex character, and like I said, he's full of humanity. Death, like, even though, like I said, he's just a skeleton, like, in a black robe, but he expresses so much emotion. He makes you feel so much emotion. Yeah, God, just love Death. And again, like, you know, more pauses with the story. Just love this whole story. Like, it's a very, like, kind of cozy story where you can see, like, it makes you feel comfortable about, like, death, not the person, but, like, you know, what actually happens, like, to you when you die. And it shows you, it talks on really, like, serious topics of, everyone kind of has, you know, their time, and when it's their time, it's their time. And, you know, you really need to enjoy the life you have. And, yeah, there's just so many little messages in this book that I really enjoyed. And it, like I said, it came through, like, a teenage boy who was given, like, the power, like I said, of a god, where he's, you know, he has this now power to, you know, usher spirits to the afterlife, just like Death, wielding Death's powers. So, yeah, it's very good book. Like, really, it said, like, you know, it's a small book. Like I said, it's a fairly short book. It's a quick read. but it's super engaging and like super thoughtful, and it's thought provoking, and yeah, you really get to understand like the process that people go through when they pass away in these in this novel. It's very good. So next, I'm really going to talk about some things maybe I didn't like. Okay, so getting into some negatives for Mort. There weren't like too many here for me. Like I think one of the big things is just like, you know, the character of Mort. Like he's a teenage boy, so he does like teenage boy things that are like that maybe now as an adult and I have kids of my own just annoy me. So it's just like stuff like that. But you know, Terry Pratchett does it such tongue in cheek that you don't like hate Mort ever. You really like Mort as a character, but you're just like, oh, you've made a stupid decision. You're a young kid. But I think that's the whole thing. Like the whole point of the story is that, you know, he's a young kid who's you know, made a mistake and he's trying to make right by himself, make right by his master Death, and you know, make right by the people he cares about. So I can see where he comes from, but just again, Mort, like he wasn't my favorite of the protagonists of all, like of some of the Discworld books I've read, you know, like with Sam Vimes or Carrot or, you know, Granny Weatherwax. Mort would probably be like much lower on that tier list of like favorite characters. Death, like again, would be much higher than Mort. I guess getting into some other characters I didn't like. There's a lot more characters in this book that I didn't like than I liked. Like I really didn't care for the character of Albert, or like Jezebel or Princess Kelly. Like I said, Albert's an older character, but again, like he just didn't hit me like the right way. Just didn't really enjoy his stuff. And like Princess Kelly and Jezebel are like teenagers as well, and like so I just didn't relate to them. I didn't really enjoy like, you know, like just what was happening with them. It just didn't interest me. And like I said, I was really excited when Death was around and like he's becoming more human and like trying more human things and like yeah. So there's like a little bit like negative with some of the characters. But other than that, like it's a really solid book. Like I did really enjoy Mort. It's like I said, anytime where Death's in the books and you get a little bit more of Death, like sign me up. So I guess, you know, going back to like look at this book, if I were to give it a rating, I would probably rate Mort at like a 3.8 out of 5 for me. Still a solid book. You should definitely read it. I don't know if this would be a really good jumping in point for the Discworld. It probably could be. I would probably recommend, if you wanted to start here, you wanted to start with Death, you could. But again, like if you watched my Guards video, which I will link up here, you know, I would recommend still read Guards, because again, like Death's a good secondary character, and again, he's still a secondary character in here. He is not the protagonist. Like you still get Death POVs, but Mort is the main character. So yeah, so that is my review of Mort. So again, I just want to thank everyone. You know, if you like this content, please like and comment and subscribe. You know, please feel free to blast me in the comments like, "Oh no, you're wrong. Like Mort's a great character." So, like I said, thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.